Good morning. This is Jim Ray with the Road to the Autry Masters. We are talking with artists from the Masters of the American West at the Autry Museum in Los Angeles, California. Today, we are fortunate to have two of our artists, husband and wife team, though they paint separately, Terri Kelly Moyers and John Moyers. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us here.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're very happy to have you and love to have you in the exhibition as well. I like to start this off by getting a sense of your background. And since we've got both of you here, I'm going to ask you to kind of share the story of your creative upbringing. And I know, having known you for many years, that that story actually intertwines at some point in time in your lives. So I'll ask you to take it up to that point where it intertwines and stop. And then after each of you have kind of gone to that point, we'll come back and talk about from there on. So Terri, let's start with you.
Okay. Oh, gosh. I just, since I can remember, like my earliest memories are of wanting to draw things. I was fascinated watching people write with pens or pencils, and it's compulsion. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I always wanted to be an artist, honestly, from when I was very, very little. So I would draw. There were no other artists per se. There was music, there were musicians in my family, but not painters or sculptors or anyone like that. So I tell people it was like a compulsion. That's all I wanted to do. And that's what I've done. That's okay. Basically it.
Now, John, your story is a little bit different. Why don't you share with us?
Yeah, my dad was an artist, a Western artist. So I grew up in a household, that's surrounded by art. And like Terri, it's something I always wanted to do. People have asked me, when did you do your first painting, or when did you start drawing? Well, I don't even remember, because I was always drawing and painting. So yeah, so it's just something I always did.
Now, aside from the episode we're going to talk about a little bit later, did either of you have any kind of formal art education in school or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in high school and all through school, I would take the art classes, whatever I could do. And then I took a year at the Alberta College of Art in Calgary, in Canada, where I grew up. And it was a little disappointing. It was very oriented to just like modern, very contemporary stuff. And
I've heard that from several artists.
Yeah, so that was a little disheartening for me in the way I wanted to work. So then I did another year at a community college I took some drafting courses and things, only because if I did that, there were some art classes, like painting and drawing classes connected with that. So that I did for about a year, and again, not fulfilling, not what I wanted. And eventually I did meet up with a Canadian artist, Clarence Telenius, and that is the story of the game farm I know we've told you, and that's ultimately where I met John. So I'll stop there and John continue with his story.
Yeah, I went to right out of high school, I went to Laguna Beach School of Art, and I went to the next year, I went to Cal Arts and out here in Los Angeles. And so then I did pretty well at both those schools. I took every life drawing class I could take, every figure painting class I could take, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about design and stuff, but I had the opportunity to go study with Robert Lougheed back in New Mexico. So I left school and I went back and did that, which was the best decision I ever made. And yeah, that's kind of my story.
I'm going to
And I'll
jump
mention that-
in,
I'll
Jim,
mention
real
that,
quick.
that Robert Lougheed was another very famous Western artist and a good friend of your father's who kind of took you under his wing. So I guess that's kind of the point where your stories intersect. Terri, you want to pick up from there and talk about how
Yeah, I
you guys
was
came
gonna-
together?
I'm going to jump back a bit and say it was difficult. And I know this is true for a lot of people, a lot of young people. But for me, I had no one that was doing what I didn't know another artist or had no way of having any kind of elevated or really a good, with anyone who could give me a good foundation where I could learn basics, things like that, until I ultimately went to the game farm in Canada and met people like Bob and Bob Lougheed and a number of other artists, and ultimately John. But it was difficult because you're just in no man's land trying to do something that you wanted desperately to do. So but life happened and it turned out good. So
Yeah. So John, tell us a little bit about when you got up to Lougheed's farm and you guys met and started working on your art together.
Well, I had been going to see Bob in Santa Fe from when I was in high school. And so then he invited me to go up and paint at the game farm up in Canada, up in British Columbia. And so I did that. And it was really great. I mean, it was, a whole month of painting. And back then, there were no cell phones or computers or anything. So you could go paint for a month and no distractions, unless you wanted to call home and hear the news of what's going on. You didn't, there were no distractions. So it was a month of every day you were painting outdoors all day long. So it was a very good thing for both of us. So
Okay, so let's talk about your careers for a minute. You guys are obviously both in the Masters American West, have been for many years. As well, you've been for many years in the Pretty West at the National Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City. I think both of you are in the permanent collection of one, if not both, of those museums, and you're both have won many awards at those shows. How did your professional career advance to get you up to this kind of high level of exhibition?
Gosh, well, it was a struggle. It's different today than it was then, I think, personally. It was hard. We, oh gosh, just painted all the time. Early on, we had to, just to make money, we had to sell at flea markets to make our rent, and still we knew that if we did anything else, like got another job doing something, that would kind of kill it for us. We wouldn't be able to keep the momentum, wouldn't be able to concentrate on our work the way we needed to. So we just toughed it out. And there wasn't as much for young artists. And it wasn't, today, I think there's so much more opportunities as far as learning, as far as just getting into these shows. I think it was just really hard. There was not the, oh, wow.
Well, there's more shows now.
There's more shows.
Yeah.
But now even we even do this now, but like if you do a painting, and you can put it on Instagram the day you finish it, and a lot
Yeah.
of people see it. Where, you know, we
Right.
didn't have that before. If you wanted your work to be seen, you had to buy an ad in a magazine. It was very expensive.
Yep.
And of course, we couldn't do that. So yeah, it was tough. But there were really only two shows back in those days, and it was used to be NAWA, which is now Prix de West, and the Cowboy Artists of
Yeah.
America. So
Yeah.
those were the shows you wanted to get into, and it was very
It was
difficult.
really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it was very strict. People like it was a lot harder, I would say, to break into that, to
And
work your way
like
up.
I think NAWA back in those days, it was like
40 artists, I think.
35, 40 artists,
Yeah.
where now Prix de West is over 100 artists every
Yeah.
year. So, you know, you just look at those numbers, it was way more difficult. So
And the
Did both of
older
you go into
painters-
NAWA? Did both of you go into NAWA at the same time?
yeah, we were both invited to show
Yeah, I
there.
was like a year ahead of you, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Terry
Yeah.
was invited in '89 and I was invited in '90. So we've been showing
Yeah.
there ever since.
And if I'm not mistaken, CAA, Cowboy Artists of America, is only men. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, it
true.
still is. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I mean, I love the artists that are part of the CAA, but I wish they had a little bit more open attitude about what artists they invite to the show.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well let's talk about your art for a little bit, and I'm gonna shift back and forth between the two of you. John, why don't we start off with the sky has power, one of your Native American subjects.
Oh yeah, that's you know, I don't know, the last several years I've been kind of playing around with just big shapes and real designy stuff, and maybe getting away from the more illustrative stuff that tells a story. So it's just kind of a simple painting, and with big shapes and stuff. And you know, I'm kind of enjoying doing that kind of thing right now.
Yeah, yeah. Terry, I think your feature work here is Mission of the Swallows. Beautiful painting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, because we're here in California now and we're loving it, and there's the missions are something we've always loved going to and seeing. They're so beautiful, and the history of them, and of course San Juan Capistrano is known for the swallows coming back every year. But so that's that way, instead of using San Juan Capistrano in the title, just by saying Mission of the Swallows, pretty much everyone knows where that is. So, and I just wanted to paint, a woman in traditional, Hispanic dress that I've done many times, but I really enjoy doing it. The embroidered shawls, and I love light. I love painting light. I love, I just really wanted to do something that to me was beautiful, and it said something about California. So I hope it works.
Yeah, I'll mention that many years ago, the California Art Club, which you're both members of, used to have a day-long paint out and sale at the Mission and San Juan Capistrano. And it was, aside from their gold medal event, it was their second biggest event of the year. And it was underwritten by Joan Irvine Smith, who is a very wealthy benefactor of California art, has been for many, many years. So it was a great, event, and we all miss it dearly. It is really fun to get down there and paint. It's a beautiful setting, as you've shown in this painting, that it's a great place. John, let's go over to your Against the Mysterious Blue. Lovely, lovely scenic big sky landscape. What's the story there?
Oh, well, again, it's like simple shapes, against, each other and everything. But we were out in New Mexico in late August last summer, and you know, the skies in New Mexico are unique to themselves, especially later in the
Absolutely.
summer and fall, the skies get so blue, so dark in value and so blue. Um, so I did that painting right after we got home from that trip. So, you know, that's a pretty simple idea, but I enjoyed painting it.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't been to New Mexico and you haven't seen these huge clouds against these vast scenes, you've just got to go there and see it because it's a
Yeah.
sight to behold.
Monsoon
Terri,
season.
I'm sorry, what?
Monsoon season.
There you go. Yeah. 3 o'clock every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Terri, Horse Heaven
Yeah.
is a lovely equine piece. What's your story with these two guys?
Not a lot of story, just a fun painting to do. Horses, you know, sort of having a tug of war with a lot of there's some lush grass around, and they're having a great time and making the most of it. That's basically the painting, just a fun thing with horses. I love painting horses. They were my first love, the thing I always loved to draw and paint. So I try to find ways to do some every now and then. I love them.
Yeah, very well presented. Sunshade is another Native American subject for you, John. What's your story there?
Well, it's just Taos Indian, and he's just shading his eyes from the sun, that New Mexico sun that's so intense. That's the reason the skies are so blue there, that sun, there's no or little atmosphere, so the sun just beats right on you. So yeah, so he's just shading in his eyes so he's looking at something.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't think people realize that New Mexico or Santa Fe is 7,000 feet high. So you get those intensely colored skies.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see a difference between John's kind of looser style and Terri's very specific style in Silent Forest.
Yeah, I guess it was a fun painting to do. It just I wanted people to think about, here's this man out hunting in the forest, but he's not doing it for the joy of killing something. He's doing it out of necessity, and he's respectful about it. And you know, he knows how to be silent and watchful and patient. And so that's basically what that's about. And it was fun to paint.
Okay. John, you've got a kind of a lodgepole landscape, flow of the seasons. I'm guessing again this is up in the Santa Fe area.
No, actually, that one I painted on from life up in Banff, Alberta.
Oh, okay.
This fall, and yeah, I just we were up there on a painting trip, and I told Terri, I said, "Man, I want to spend a couple of days just painting yellow trees." So that's what we did. So.
Yeah. I don't think I mentioned it, but Terri grew up in Alberta. Is that correct? And you guys go back there every year to paint and bring back the rewards of your efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, we try to go, you know, usually in the fall because it's so beautiful. We were up there this last September, and it was great up at one of our favorite places in the mountains to paint for, oh gosh, what were it, 2 weeks or something?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was great, and we can't get enough. Between Canada and Hawaii are kind of our go-to, you know, let's go paint from life, and just that's relaxing for us. Even though we work really hard when we do it, it's just really fulfilling.
Yeah. John, we got one last one for you, and that's Walking Rain. What's your story on that?
Well, again, it's kind of a result of our trip to New Mexico this fall, or in August.
August.
So, and it's another sky painting, which I I've painted a lot of them, but I don't get tired of painting them. So that's what that is. And yeah, it's just another sky.
Um, I like to learn a little bit about how you know when you're going to do a piece of work. It's always a little difficult to ask this question, and I'll start with Terry. How do you decide what you want to portray in your art when you're considering an individual work?
Gosh, it's not always the same. Sometimes just by being out, like we said, when we go to New Mexico or Canada, you'll see something that'll be, oh, I really want to do that, or I want to do something. At other times, you just get an idea. Like sometimes I'll have an idea of something I want to do, and I'll think about it for like a year or more, and just so I want to do this painting of such and such, and you think about it and think about it and think about it and try to work out the difficulties, or the problems, or the way you want to do it in your head. And that really helps, because when it comes time to do it, you've thought it through so well that usually it goes pretty well.
I'm going to guess by, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to guess by that time you almost have a perfect image of it in your mind's eye as you.
Yeah, I mean, you have an idea of what you want to do, how you want to go about it. And although, like anything, you could be in the middle of it and
you get surprised.
Something changes, or you have an idea about doing something slightly different. But at least you have the building blocks and work those out. Yeah.
How about for you, John?
Yeah, to answer that question, boy, I wish I knew a way to come up with great ideas all the time. So it's when you're out painting from life, you always get ideas with that. And I think that's the best way for me to get more ideas, is just go, like, if you just stay in the studio for day after day after day, I have trouble coming up with fresh ideas. But if you get out and travel, and even if you
get new reference,
even if you go paint in Europe or go paint in Hawaii, or it might give you an idea for a New Mexico subject matter, like just something, gives you an idea. Think, oh, I can apply that to a New Mexico painting or something. So I think it's really important to get out and work from life.
It is. And the thing about being a flat artist is everything we do has to be pretty much a one-of. I mean, you can have a variation on a theme or whatever, but we can't, do one and make, 5 copies of the same painting. It's not like sculpture. It has to be a unique thing every time. So that's kind of, that has its own challenges, coming up with enough good ideas all the time.
Yeah.
So
I guess the last area I like to explore is over the course of your professional and artistic careers, how has your process evolved, Terri?
Oh gosh, my process, it's pretty much the same. We don't rely on a lot of, oh gosh, how can I put this? Technical help. I don't know how to. The only, we do use photographs. We paint a lot from life, and we do have photographs for reference, but that's pretty much it. We don't Photoshop, we don't project, we don't do any of those things. Everything you see of ours, we draw by hand. It's ours. It's us. Right. So we're kind of dinosaurs, I guess, in that respect, because so many people are using things that, I guess make the process quicker, whatever. I just like it to be totally my own.
Oh,
So
understood.
John wants the same.
Yeah, and as far as like my process changing there, if I don't think it's changed my thought process or anything since when I was very young, but saying that has changed is I become a better draftsman. I hopefully, and I paint better and everything. So I'm able to do subject matters that I wasn't able to do when I was 20 years old. So I
Yeah.
can paint, things that I thought about painting them, but wasn't capable of doing. So now I can do a lot of those
Interesting.
subjects. So,
Yeah.
but I think my thoughts about art and all that, it really hasn't changed. It's just my ability has changed.
Well, John and Terry, thank you so much for taking time with us and sharing your stories about your background and what you do. We look forward to seeing you at the Masters of the American West later on this month. It is this month now. I know
Yes.
because you guys just live down the street, so it's easy for you to get there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been fun.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
Jim.